it's incredibly gratifying to be able to sit with a founder CEO for like an hour a week and have a massive impact. It's like you see over a long time horizon how the biggest issues are getting resolved and how their company's growing. It's so gratifying. And so it fills me up.
You're listening to What Fuels You, where we deep dive with CEOs, entrepreneurs, and business leaders to learn more about their stories and uncover nuggets of wisdom we can all use. I'm your host, Shauna Swerland, CEO of Fuel Talent, an award-winning recruiting firm based in Seattle. Today's guest on the What Fuels You podcast is Ari Roisman. Ari is an entrepreneur, CEO, and executive coach who helps ambitious founders push through barriers and build meaningful lives beyond success. Over the past decade, he's founded and led companies that have defined new categories, from instant video messaging with Glide to wearable tech with Wristcam, which partnered with Apple and landed on Time's 100 Best Inventions list. He's been recognized by MIT Technology Review as one of 35 innovators under 35, and now channels his experience into coaching founders, serving as forum officer for the YPO Entrepreneurship Network, and advising companies at the intersection of technology and human growth. Welcome, Ari. So good to see you.
It's great to be here. Thanks for doing this. It's going to be fun.
I'm going to start with some rapid fire. You ready?
I hope so.
Okay. Do you have a morning ritual?
Yes, it's pretty boring, but it's actually really meaningful. I've realized how much it shapes my day. We've got this multi-millennia old meditation practice with like a quorum of 10 folks. So, I mean, I've noticed how big of an impact it has on the rest of my day, whether or not I make it to Minion. That's a big deal for me. I find that like
Yeah.
starting my day, just being surrounded by other people, trying to get my intentions right for the day, and it's like a big win for me.
It would be a big win for anyone. It's very grounding. Okay, what is a favorite invention or something that you're just like, I'm so glad that I have this that you've ever owned?
Oh wow. I mean, I love these AirPods. I mean,
I
and
do too.
AirPods are a great product. I mean, the original iPod was a big deal for me. I'm a huge music lover.
Yeah, what kind of music?
I'm all over the place. Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Lately I've been into like some of this like ambient, like electronic, but it's influenced by like classical music or jazz
Oh,
and like
send it
I
to
don't
me.
yeah, I can send you some good
Yeah,
music.
send it to me. What's the app that you use the most on your phone?
Lately I've been using this thing called a Whisper Flow. It's actually a keyboard that I think you install. It's also an app, but basically it allows you to use like AI enabled dictation in any app.
Oh, in any app.
It's in any app. So it's like it's a keyboard. So like you switch use like that little you hit that little like globe button and it switches your
Yeah.
keyboard, and then you start recording, and then like wherever you are, you could be in your email client, you could be in your notes, you could be in Notion, and then it's like super high quality dictation, and it can adapt a bit to talk like you. And if you say, if you pause here, you repeat something, it'll just filter all that out.
I'm into it. I'm downloading that right when we hang
It
up.
works on, yeah, it's good. It's also good on the desktop. It's cool. And then I use Notion to just try to manage everything.
Notion. I feel like maybe I do need to hire you as my coach. We're going to get into that, but I always feel like I get little nuggets every time I talk to you. I'm like, Ari's full of wisdom. Okay. Is there, aside from, wrapping tefillin and the morning ritual, is there a way that if you're just, needing it, how do you like to recharge?
I've gotten really into running in the last couple of years. I never really ran much,
With music or no music?
usually with music, but sometimes it is really nice to just listen to,
Nature.
yeah. So I just finished my third half marathon of the past year, but I never
Wow.
ran. I never ran up until a couple years ago. I just signed up for like this local thing they have in the community. It's called the Oy Vey 5K. And so I ran that, and then I started training for a half
Good for
marathon.
you. Do you like to swim or bike? Because you could do triathlon now.
I need to like hire a swimming coach and really step up my swimming game. It's actually a high priority because I love riding waves. Like I tried to, I'm not good, but I had a board and used to go surfing when I lived in Palo Alto. And I love, yeah, I love cycling.
Yeah, that'd be fun. Okay, what's your favorite city?
It depends on the mission. I'm a big fan of, I lived in Jerusalem for 7 years. There's a certain fire in that city. There's also like a certain like mystical air and quality of this city in northern Israel called Tzfas. So I love Israel. I'm like surprisingly a big fan of Cincinnati, where I live now, and I've been here for a couple of years. I feel like this is low key a hidden gem and a really healthy city. It's always fun to go to Miami.
I love Miami. And you haven't said New York City.
New York is great. It's super like I feel like I get a ton done, and being in New York is always really charging. But like New York as a city is like, and it's easy to navigate, but I don't know, and especially with like what's happening there
Yeah.
politically, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. That's a whole podcast in and of itself. Okay, three words. How many kids do you have again? You have four?
I've got four. We got one cooking, which will hopefully arrive next month.
Bun in the oven. Mazel tov. That's exciting. Okay, so three words that your existing kids, the ones that you have now, how would they describe you? Use three words.
Oh wow. I don't know. I'm not good at this. My kid, how would it? Hopefully, well, I think they would call me Tati. They would use that word. I don't know. Hopefully, fun, and they would probably say, interesting, which is a little bit loaded. But I try to expose my kids to interesting things that are maybe, not your typical whatever typical stuff.
Yeah, I wanted to say like I've not seen you with your kids, but from the little I know of you, I picture you being a like a teacher type of dad. Like I'm going to be fun, but I'm going to be engaged in a way that you're like leaning in as kids to what dad has to say.
I try to do that. Like my kids get these build boxes, these Crunch Labs build boxes, and they're like building engineering things every month. And yeah, there's so much to learn. There's
Yeah.
so much to learn. And so I try to expose, my parents did that with me. I try to just expose my kids to, like the wonder
Yeah.
of the world.
I'm so excited to hear about your upbringing, but I have one final rapid fire question. What's three qualities that you most admire in founders?
Passion, creativity, and resilience.
Those are good ones. Totally makes sense. Okay, walk me back. Early days. I know you don't even want to talk about you, but little baby boy Ari, your parents are teaching you wonder. Where did you grow up?
I don't usually readily like come out with this because it feels like such an obscure place that I don't really feel much connection to, but I was born and raised in Wilmington, Delaware.
That's so random.
I know it's so random.
Well,
And
kind
I
of
didn't
Cincinnati is too, to be honest. From like knowing you, I'm like, I don't see it, but I've never been to Cincinnati or Delaware.
Yeah, so like not a particularly exciting place, and I grew up like hearing a lot of cracks at that, like because I went to high school in Philadelphia, and so everyone was always being like, there's a scene in Wayne's World where like they're traveling around the country, around the world, and they get to Delaware, and they're like Delaware,
Yeah,
you
exactly.
know. So yeah, that's where I grew up, and my parents really valued my education. So I think I grew up a bit spoiled. I went to like one of, I think, the early Montessori schools, and then they sent me to a Friends school, Wilmington Friends. So
Yeah.
these are Friends schools have
The
been around
Quaker
for
schools,
hundreds of
right?
years. They're Quakers. I have these like fond memories of meeting for worship. I think there's like a lot around Quaker philosophy, which is actually really relevant today. And then my parents sent me to the closest Jewish day school, which is this school called Akiba, which doesn't really exist anymore in Philadelphia.
Yeah, so kind of far. But so you were like, I mean, I'm guessing you were a cool guy, but also kind of nerdy guy because you're the robotics champion. I have in my head that that's like a nerdy thing, but maybe it's
It's so funny.
like,
Where did you get? I didn't even put that in my bio. Where did you
dude,
pick
we
that
are
up on?
hardcore. We're hardcore.
You're doing research over there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I always sort of straddled like the whole spectrum of kids in the class, from the kids that were like super nerdy and like clearly on the spectrum in one way, like all the way to like, yeah, like the super cool kids. I felt some connection with everyone as long as they were, yeah, like people that you would just want to be around because they were
Yeah.
somewhat enjoyable.
I'm guessing that's your super ninja skill because I feel like I can pick up on that if someone's taught themselves how to be kind of engaging and good with people, or if it's just like they're naturally that way. And I'm guessing you've been this way your whole life.
I love people. I feel like people make the world go round. I think there's nothing more fascinating or impactful or interesting or transcendent than people in all of creation. And I've always just been drawn to people of all types. Yeah, my mother definitely called that out, like as a kid, that she's like, you've got this gift and you can just be friends with anyone.
You do, you really do. I was so drawn to you, and I was like, but I found I was like around everybody was kind of drawn into you, and it's definitely a skill, and it's usually not combined with the person with your like academic background who's like mechanical engineering and chemical engineering, and they usually go together, and when they are, it's like that's a unicorn situation. It's pretty sweet.
I just don't, I don't think about it much. Like I love people, and I don't know why. I mean, I'm usually pretty comfortable in my own skin. And so, and I find I feel most alive and sort of in a flow state and tend to lose track of time when I'm in deep conversation or in
Yeah, me
meaningful
too.
conversation with other people,
I'm the
right?
same
You're
way.
also a people person.
Oh yeah, but I was like this my whole like it's just like I've always been
This is
this
how
way.
we're wired.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
just wired that way, and I get energy from it where people are like. I'm like, I have a high capacity for love and a high capacity for loving and touching a lot of people, where most people just keep it very tight and very guarded. I'm like, I could meet someone brand new and be like very into getting to know them, and especially if they're a good person and good energy. And anyway, so when you were little, what did you value, or did you have a sense of what you valued?
I think I was always pretty curious. There was definitely expectations that I would do well in school, so I had to keep that in check. And then, we all have these things. We just sort of get exposed to things, or our parents nudge us in different directions, and then we just kind of lean in, and that becomes a big part of our identity. So, yeah, I definitely was encouraged to learn and explore. Throw out some anecdotes. I mean, I remember being on the internet on CompuServe and being on the internet like on a DOS prompt on a 14.4 modem. So I definitely had like early access to networked computing. My father was always kind of interested and early in that kind of stuff. My father's an engineer and professionally somewhat followed his footsteps. And then he got me a computer. I had my own computer. I remember overclocking my computer, I think in middle school or early in high school. And then my parents got me, I don't remember how it happened exactly, but I remember getting a kit, a radio controlled car kit when I was
Oh,
maybe
wow.
9 or 10, and like building a radio controlled car from scratch, and then buying, the upgraded motor and then tweaking it so it went like, irresponsibly fast kind of a thing.
And do you have
I remember
siblings? Are they like also like you?
I have an older brother. He's 10 years my senior. So he wasn't around so much
Yeah.
like when I
So
was growing
different
up.
than how you're raising your kids, like boom, 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 keep
I
going.
remember also like tinkering on these like electrical engineering toys where you put like different circuits and resistors together, and then you can like make all these different things and different sounds and modulators. So, I tinkered enough that I appreciated tinkering, and I went into engineering. But the more exposure I get to like real world class tinkers and inventors, I realize that like that's not really who I am compared to people that are like, prolific inventors or people that are, just love
Yeah.
writing code and building things. I'm much more of a people person and like,
Yeah.
strategist and bringing people together. And also, this kind of newfound love and appreciation for doing what you're doing now, which is sitting with someone, asking a lot of questions, listening, learning, reflecting. So
Yeah.
we'll get into all that.
I want to get into it, but who sparked your like entrepreneurial bug? Or do you remember, were you one of those kids that like I had a paper route and I had a lemonade stand or because like you're kind of you've tinkered in the entrepreneurial area pretty successfully. Not for everybody.
It's a good question. So my father got into MIT in 19, I think for the classes, I think it was a class of 1965. My father passed away last summer, and he didn't keep many things, but he kept his MIT acceptance letter. But his father lost his job like right around that time, and so they couldn't afford the tuition to go to MIT. And so instead, my father went to another incredible engineering school, which if you live in New York, you're probably familiar with, called Cooper Union.
Mm-hmm.
Um, which is free if you can get in. And so my father, that made a big impact on my father. And my father worked hard and saved a lot of money and lived very modestly. And the thing he valued the most was education. And so he sent me to these like elite private schools. I definitely grew up spoiled in terms of my education. And then he saved a lot of money so that I would be able to go. That was his thing. Is like you can go to the school of your choice. You know, if you the best school you can get into, like I want you to go and get the best education you can. And so my father lost his job. Like he'd worked for this company for like 30 years, and they were struggling publicly. They're a publicly traded company, and so they went through some downsizing. Coincidentally, actually got rehired at that same company by the new CEO. He challenged them, I think, in that they like weren't approaching the internet like with the level of rigor and seriousness that they needed to, and so he challenged the CEO, I think, and then kind of got sidelined and then rehired.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, so that had a huge impact on me. Seeing my father dedicate, as far back as I remember, he worked for this company. He worked for the company 30 years, and new management comes in or the stock, and then
Yeah, and they're like, and you're out.
he gets canned. And so that had a huge impact on me. I was super fortunate and appreciative that, my parents had really prioritized my education and put all this money away so that I was able to go to, an expensive private university. But it seeded this very deep distrust in
In like
putting
corporate
my,
America.
yeah, and
Yeah.
putting my fate in the hands of anyone else. And so I think just the moment that happened, it like planted something inside of me where it was like, I can't trust any big corporate juggernaut to feed me, and I
Yeah.
need to be able to
Interesting.
I need to be able to carve my own path and do my own thing. And so that's pretty much what I've always done. And sometimes
Yeah.
it's really stressful and does not work out as planned, but I it's very much like in my wiring, and I've been doing it now, right, for like a couple decades. And
Yeah, you
so
got the bug and now you're like, I'm unstoppable. Did you like, I mean, Washington University, such a great school. We've got some friends with kids there now that are super happy. Who put that idea in your mind to apply there? And was that the right choice for you? You went there for undergrad and got a master's there.
yeah, I love WashU. It's a beautiful campus, and it's this somewhat unique, I think. It's like it feels like a very suburban, pristine, picturesque campus,
Yeah.
but it's across the street, I think, from the biggest park, like in a city in a country. It's called Forest Park, but it's also like in a city, so it's like close to a bunch of stuff, so it felt like the right mix. I wanted to go to Stanford or Berkeley, and my parents were like super clear that like you can't go so far away, right? Growing up in and
Oh,
around Philly, they're like, you can't cross the Mississippi. So like
oh,
WashU is literally just across the Mississippi. I heard there was someone at my high school that went to WashU. They were like, WashU has been really good at like marketing, I think, for a while. So I don't know. And they had a pretty active Jewish life. I was like specifically looking for a university that had a kosher meal plan, which kind of trimmed things down.
yeah. That would have
And
been
so
tough at Berkeley.
right. So, and the Ivies didn't appeal to me because I was like always, I don't know, it felt like too cliche, and like I've always been, I guess, like a bit of an independent thinker. So
Yeah.
I went to go visit WashU my junior year and had a really magical experience and met this incredible group of friends that were juniors at the time, and then or so I guess they were sophomores. And then I chose to go back and visit again early in my senior year, and again fell in love, fell in with this whole crew, and then I just applied early and got
Yeah.
in.
Good
And
for
so
you.
yeah, so that was easy.
And what was your research, your graduate research focused on, and how has that kind of woven through your career or stuck with you since then?
Yeah, it's a funny story. I came in as an electrical engineer. I thought, but then the electrical engineers were moving a pixel around on a screen, and then the mechanical engineers were modding RC cars, and so I quickly shifted gears, and I was really into. I still am like fascinated with aviation. I studied rotary theory from the former president of the American Helicopter Society, and like took like aerospace
Wow.
classes with guys from the, from Lockheed and that kind of thing. But then my undergraduate advisor was always into combustion. And so at some point there was like they started a new department, and it was called energy, still around, energy, environmental and chemical engineering. And he basically jumped ship into this new department, and I started doing some work for him. It's a long, to make a long story short, he had a nanotech company that he spun out of the university that invented this much better way of making tantalum, which is
What's
actually the key.
tantalum?
Tantalum's an element. It's the key ingredient in capacitors, the best capacitors, which
Oh
are
my God, you're so tripping me out right now. I'm like,
sorry. So capacitors are like a huge part of any circuit board.
okay.
So he raised some venture. Company was not working out, and I had this incredible opportunity to help him figure out this technology and make it, scale it and commercialize it. And so that was like my first job, which went really well, surprisingly.
Wow.
And then we got the company acquired by the world's largest materials manufacturer.
Wow. And how old are you at this point? You're like 21, 22 years old.
Yeah, so that made me a bit fearless in terms of like what.
Yeah, you're like untouchable. You're like, look at me, I got this.
So I kind of probably got myself in a little over my head in terms of where that eventually unfolded. Everything that I feel like is meaningful in life, it's sort of like it always comes when you don't expect it.
Yeah.
It's like I have this buddy who's a musician, and he has this song about like you got to be like H2O and go with the flow. Like there's it's so easy to be overly deterministic and rigid in terms of what you expect is going to happen. I'm definitely like I'm not a, you always need in any organization, you need like the implementer, the integrator, the execution, make sure the trains are running on time, like operational excellence and good systems. Like I'm not that guy. I love having that guy or gal.
You're the visionary.
Yeah, so something like that. So, but I think I see it with like friends of mine that are, wired in that sort of COO disposition. It's like, there's maybe a tendency more towards like being a bit anxious or being nervous. It's hard to just kind of like go with the flow. But what I think the reality is like the magic is always in the serendipity or the cross pollination or the thing that you missed the turn or you missed your
Yes.
flight, and it's that's where all the real magic is. And so
Yes.
that's sort of that's how my life has unfolded and continues to unfold. But it's, to answer your question, I wasn't thinking about combustion. It turns out my father happens to be a chemical engineer, so I had some exposure. He didn't do anything in combustion, but I just ended up as a mechanical engineer, like, in having this guy as my advisor, and he was into combustion. He's actually one of the country's experts in combustion. And then I ended up in his lab and had this opportunity, and then just kind
Crazy.
of, yeah, it worked out.
So the startup gets acquired and you're working now. And then how did you transition through all these other jobs? Because when you've got a good thing going and you're having early success, what's your kind of quiet moments on the pillow that you're just relaxing and thinking, what do I want to do with myself? Where was your head at that point?
When you're coming of age, right, there's always like the next major milestone. It's like, I remember, gosh, there's parts I wanted to drop out of, undergrad. You know,
Your
my
parents would
parents
have
would.
freaked out.
Right. So what did I do? I applied to the Technion, which is like Israel's MIT, and then I just got in, and then I took a leave of absence at WashU, and then negotiated getting the credits transferred in, and I took all my coursework in Hebrew, and that's how I learned fluent Hebrew. I just enrolled in the Technion for a semester. All I'm thinking about is just like there's the next milestone, right? So it was like first was like graduate college. It's that's a we're on this podcast. I don't know who's listening. I maybe like right. I've done some stuff that reads impressive on paper. The reality is when I went to Israel and I transferred my credits in, like I failed one of the four classes I enrolled in. I only passed three. I wasn't carrying a super heavy course load because engineering school is like really hard. And I was also interested in some other stuff and taking some other classes. And so I walked at my graduation, but everyone else graduated in May and I was short like a credit or two. And so I actually ended up having to like take these classes and in the summer. So I was like offset from everybody else in terms of being able to finish up. And to me, it was like I was a failure at the time. I was like,
You felt that
I
way.
couldn't even graduate in time. It was like, because
Yeah.
I,
Well, it seemed to work out. I'm like,
that's what I'm
it
saying.
does.
So what
Things just work
happened?
out.
So I ended up working in my advisor's lab that summer, and then that turned into my dream job, which was
Yeah.
this incredible experience getting this company acquired. It was like, and then I went back to graduate school and basically kickstarted this lab in graduate school. So um, the graduate research was around it's oxycombustion. So I studied flame stability in oxycombustion, specifically in a cleaner way of burning coal, where you can recycle the flue gas and then very efficiently capture all the CO2, and then in a very energy efficient way, like filter out all the bad stuff and then pump all the CO2 underground, so you can actually run a carbon neutral
Oh,
coal
wow.
driven power generation process.
Is that still happening there?
Right. So it's crazy. I did my research and then I basically, I was, you know, hard tech. I would put that in the category of hard tech. Like typically when you get a job working for one of these companies, you're like a little tiny cog in like one wheel of like a
Yeah.
massive thing. And you're just working on like, if you get a job, I didn't want to do this. Got turned off of this. You get a job working for Boeing or Lockheed. You're in charge of like, you know, this, um, latching mechanism or like this
Right.
actuator on like this part of the wing or the
Yeah.
aileron or something. So
That would never
that
fly, no pun intended, but never fly with your personality. It's like an Amazon job where you're like,
I
you're
couldn't,
in charge
yeah,
of that red button moving from the left side for the
right.
whole year. You're going to try to move it to the right. It's a whole thing. I
So
know.
what did I
I've been
do?
there.
When I finished graduate school, I was like, all right. Sure. I was started my first company in graduate school and started doing engineering consulting, and I did a couple projects as I was finishing out my master's, and then I basically was like, all right, I'm done with this. Like I'm gonna go, and I deliberately basically got into software. So it was like, software is eating the world. In many ways, I felt like I'd missed the boat. Like I didn't
And
study
what was
computer
that company?
science. Yeah, so I started a company originally called Glide and raised like 40-50 million dollars pre-revenue.
Yeah. That was the video
And
app, social video
right,
app
so
company, right?
we
Yeah.
pioneered push to talk video. So we had like a hot video walkie-talkie, video messaging app that was like hot, 10 years ago type of thing.
Yeah. So selling into consumers, like you're trying to problem
It
solve.
would it was like we invented a new way to communicate. It's actually still super innovative. Like it's a walkie-talkie but with video. So you tap a button and then immediately I'm not just it's not just like recording locally on my phone, it's streaming live. The moment I press record, you get a push notification. You can watch that live. It's stored to the cloud. You can watch it later. It works in groups. Pretty like way ahead of its time.
Where's the company now? I know you were there for a long time.
Yeah, so yeah, founded the company, led it for 11 years. We that went well, that first product. And then we acquired a company. We raised a big round. I was traveling a lot to the Bay Area. Eventually, I just moved to Palo Alto. This is right when the Apple Watch is coming out. I saw what happened with the iPhone and how it just totally changed personal computing and how we interact with software. And I saw the Apple Watch as being like the next wave and like the natural evolution of personal computing. You have a screen that you're literally wearing, and the watch is a form factor that's been proven out over centuries. So it made a lot of sense to me. Turns out we were like probably way too early, way too optimistic in terms of our thinking of how quickly like watch adoption would happen, and then
Mm.
how to the extent to which like the third party app ecosystem would also develop on the watch. It looked super promising. We worked really closely with Apple. In short, basically, I met one of the original program managers from the Apple Watch team, got introduced through a friend, and we had this like magical first meeting, and he decided to quit Apple on the spot,
And that's when you
join
guys
me.
co-founded Wristcam, right?
And then exactly, and we made this
Yeah.
product. Originally it was called Camera, CMRA, and then and then we brought that to market as Wristcam. We pre-sold a bunch of them. We worked really closely with Apple. To this date, I think we're the only camera for the Apple Watch. We're the only
It's
like
crazy.
official Apple certified smart accessory for the Apple Watch. It's like officially made for Apple Watch. The whole plan was to go into Apple retail, but then the pandemic hit. And so physical distribution of products, especially third party products through Apple retail,
Yeah.
went to null. But I'm proud of the product. First of all, I'm proud that we actually followed through and delivered a product. Like,
Absolutely. But also Glide is like crazy, the numbers that you hit with Glide. I mean, that app alone, like I'm just reading these numbers, attracted 20 million users, was featured by Apple and Google. Rapid growth.
we caught lightning in a bottle. We focused a lot on having a viral K factor. We probably were like too aggressive in terms of really engineering for that. I had an incredible team, amazing co-founders. Yeah, it was crazy. When I look back at it, I didn't realize how unusual it was at the time, but we went from an idea, just
Oh,
literally an
yeah.
idea, and me teaming up with like a childhood friend, to 2.5 years later, 50 million raised pre-revenue. We acquired another company. We're close to 100 people. We're basically the hottest company in Jerusalem, one of the hottest companies in Israel. The mayor of the city is moving us into the office.
Yeah. Not
We're traveling
surprising.
the world on stage at the biggest tech conferences, and we were finalists at TechCrunch Disrupt. We're in and out of all these big VCs.
Yeah.
There's actually there's like an uncanny amount of commonality between what my real life experience was and the first 2 seasons of Silicon Valley.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, you're like, I identify with those guys. So I know that in your coaching and that in the work that you do, you talk a lot about like staying close to your why. What was your why for both of these companies? Because they're both so relevant and so needed and useful. But have you used anecdotal stories or like wisdom you've caught from those experiences in your coaching? I'm guessing, because you've got real hands-on operating experience.
Yeah, I mean, it's just so embedded, right? I mean, this is my life for over a
Yeah,
decade, is bringing these two really ambitious consumer products to life and then to market. And we had real success with both products.
major. Yeah.
You know, getting like a really great financial outcome for all of your investors with the way kind of VC mechanics work is another story. But to answer your first question, the company actually is still moving and grooving. Like that, I passed the baton to the CEO of this incredible Israeli company that we acquired that are just real gurus in all things streaming video. And so they've really shifted focus into um, basically computer vision and AI. There's really no one that's built like a computer vision video centric engine to tap into all the power of AI. It's all like based on static images. So they're doing their thing. The company's now called Endless AI. Shout out to the team there. Like I'm impressed that they've had the tenacity and persistence and the creativity to
Yeah.
just and the passion to keep going for it. I mean, after two products and parting ways with my original co-founders on good terms, but it was just time. And then
Time to
bringing
move
like
on.
another product to market, like it was time for me to move on. Like it really
Yeah,
took a toll those last few years.
I'm sure.
I just lost my own like personal sense of self and value. And I was just burnt out.
Yeah. You
It
lost your
was a long
why.
haul.
Yeah,
Right.
that
But
makes sense.
the why, I really only realized like the depth of the why, maybe post facto. But the why was all about connecting people. You think about it, what do we do now? How do we keep up with people? Like most of the interactions we have with most people throughout the day are through asynchronous communication. We're texting. Sometimes we call. Now we also do a lot of video. But back in the day, like when we launched Glide, Zoom didn't exist. It was Skype. And it was like, if you wanted to connect with someone face to face over the internet, it was like setting a call at a desktop. It was very limiting. And so we wanted to basically tap into the magic of the self-facing camera and collapse time and space, literally bend time and space, transcend space and time, and allow people to connect face to face at their convenience. And that's really what instant video messaging does. It's real time like a call, but it's also asynchronous. And then with Wristcam, it was all about now instead of the camera living in your pocket where there's so much friction, you have to pull it out and unlock the phone and get the thing. And then if you want to record a video and send it to someone, you have to record it first and then it has to upload and then you send it. There's minutes from when you are enjoying that moment and there's something that you want to share or something you want to say until they can watch it. And so you can never have real-time dialogue now. And that's what we did. We powered live video. It's like straight out of science fiction or Dick Tracy or Blade Runner, like literally, tap and talk video communication from the wrist. That's why we built Wristcam. We turned the one thing the Apple Watch is still missing as a
But
camera.
it can't do that. Yeah, I was going to say,
No,
I mean,
that's what we do. We still do
yeah,
that. If you have a Wristcam, it's now, the camera technology, the optics are, 3, 4 years old, but it's still a product that like you hook up to your Apple Watch, especially good on the Apple Watch Ultra, and like you can, and if the other person on the other side, because we don't, there's no open API for FaceTime. So we had to build our own, everything from scratch, our own video communication
yeah.
protocol, our own apps, our own APIs. But if you had our app set up on another watch or on another phone, and even on desktop or even on Android, we always had that working behind the scenes. You can talk live.
That's crazy.
Yeah, but it was way ahead of its time.
Yeah,
Way ahead of its time. It's
timing's
still ahead of its
everything.
time.
It is ahead of its time. What are some of the hard lessons that you can share about, these outcomes? It sounds like it's not the financial crazy outcome that a lot of startups are expecting, but that also doesn't sound like that was your number one driver.
The capital we raised in Glide initially, it was all pre-revenue. It was all about having a transcendent product experience and being, that one company every few years that comes along and does something really unusual and spectacular and builds crazy network effects and then takes the world by storm. But it happens very rarely. It's like the last ones to really do it were, Zoom and Snapchat and WhatsApp, so that was the bet, right? And
Yeah.
so we made it pretty far. We didn't, we had our moment. We didn't endure. I think we could have, and I definitely think we could have, but it's hard, as things scale, it gets harder and harder. It's so easy to lose yourself. One thing one of my co-founders did like throughout, he was always still tinkering. He was like, you know, coming up with a narrative for like a comic book, a mashup between like Batman and Superman. He's just goofy, dorky things, but like he was doing stuff and he, put together this comic book. I was like totally swept away with the company and like sort of stopped intentionally investing in myself and taking care of myself. I just wasn't,
Mm-hmm.
I
It
wasn't taking care of
happens.
myself. I was traveling incessantly, as the
Yeah.
founder CEO, it's your job to raise the capital. I
And
was
it's
traveling.
lonely. But I know you've gotten a lot of benefit out of YPO and just specifically, I'm sure your forum experience, which for those listening, Ari and I met through YPO, which is an organization, it's international. And one of the benefits is that you get to be in kind of a peer group of 8 to 10 people that you meet with monthly and have a very confidential, shared experience around what's going on in your life on a personal and professional level. Did that kind of help save you, the YPO experience? And like, I got to talk to someone about kind of where my head is right now.
Yes, I got my first exposure to Forum, first in EO, and then I joined YPO. For those of you not familiar, many founders, CEOs, folks in sort of inherently lonely, ambitious leadership positions get together often monthly in a confidential peer group, 6 to 10 people. Everyone's really sworn to confidentiality, and you can bring your top 5%, your bottom 5%, the stuff that you can't really bring anywhere else. I think of it like a pressure release valve, but it's also a real source of wisdom and experience shares from people that get it and have been through a lot. Yeah, so getting up and running in a forum was really profound, and it taught me a real nuanced communication skill around, not jumping to giving people direct advice. Instead of telling people what they should do, speaking from my experiences and like, here's what worked for me, which is such a valuable, like, nuanced skill that I didn't really have before then. And, I sort of sensed as I was in it doing all this stuff that it would be really helpful to have some sort of a confidant and a coach. I asked around. I remember when I first got to Palo Alto, I asked this super successful startup attorney who like literally lives right next door to now Lorraine Jobs and across the street from Larry Page, super well connected. I asked him, like, do you know someone that could coach me? I'd known about Andy Grove, and Bill Campbell. Yeah, so Bill Campbell was still alive when I first showed up in Silicon Valley, and he was a friend of my corporate attorneys. I tried to get in with Bill Campbell, and he was just like This was like a year or two before he passed, and so he wasn't taking on new clients. But I tried. Basically, I tried. But this attorney who I asked, he was like, "No, that doesn't exist." He's like, "Coaches don't exist." You have to 10 years ago in startup land, there were like so few books. Guy Kawasaki wrote a book called The Art of Start. There was Brad Feld wrote a book called Venture Deals, which kind of
Yeah.
teaches you how to
It's built
right.
built to
But
scale,
there,
all
other
those
than
ones.
that, there was
Yeah.
there was classics ones like Good to Great, but like in terms of
Yeah.
like the grind and specifically how the world of startups works, there was very few books, right?
Well, and then also
Um,
you've got the like, I can't really go to my board. I can't really go to
no,
my
you can't.
spouse.
Right. So you need right. So I knew I needed something. I put out sort of some feelers, and I didn't. Nothing really came back, And then I can remember connecting with some random guy. It didn't really click, and so I never gave myself the gift of coaching. I had informal things with former founders that had become investors or folks that were like angel investors and had were post exit that were sort of in my corner. They wrote checks, but I never had something formal or something where I was really like created a
Accountable. Yeah.
framework and I had real accountability. And so at the very end, this is months before I decided to resign, I was really burnt out. And I was going through a tough time. I was really out of touch with my own kind of inner greatness. And I finally engaged a coach. And it was so impactful. It was so, so helpful. It created this really loving, nurturing space where I was able to think through with clarity, what's the next move? Do I stay with this and double down? Do I just let go? Is there a way to, gracefully move on, pass the baton? And I came to the conclusion it was time to move on. I was able to gracefully, on good terms, resign, step down, and have the company keep going. I put together some capital, so the company had some funding, and then I was able to move on. And it was like a new lease on life.
Right, because now you're able to like take all that wisdom and implement it in ways where you can really be at the highest level in an advisory capacity and a coach yourself. I mean, you're
So
coaching tons of founders.
I work with a handful of folks, but there's folks now I've been working with. I only work with founders, really only founder CEOs that that they're at, a meaningful enough scale and have like been in it for long enough that like that whole wide-eyed bushy-tailed like drive. I talk to these young founders that are doing it for the first time. It's like there's almost like no one to talk. It's like they're just not, they haven't really hit turbulence yet, which is
Yeah,
inevitable.
yeah,
Ben Horowitz has this famous essay called The Struggle, and it's like until you go through the struggle, you're not really you're not really a founder. It's like
right.
you have to go through this dark night of the soul to really emerge. And so, yeah, I sat in that for years, and it took a
Interesting.
toll. And it was so gratifying to be able to channel that into having this meaningful, high leverage role as a confidant. Um, the core of what I try to do is just classic coaching. I even went through this whole formal coaching certification course, and I'll soon be formally certified by the International Coaching Federation or whatever. Like, I got that training. There's a magic in coaching done right, where you're really holding this open-ended loving space. You're deliberately exercising restraint to not be directive. At the same time, founders are super busy, and they want battle-hearted insight,
Yeah.
instinct,
I mean, in my YPO
guidance.
groups, I'm like this. Here's the deal. I don't want your non-gestalt, like shared experience. I want you to tell me what the F to do right now. And I think that's also okay because there's wisdom, there's a reason, and they're paying you, right? They're like, I need you to tell me what to do in this environment. But I have a lot of questions. I'm going to hit you with them fast because there's so much to cover here. So there's a lot of coaches out there, right? So I know that you've got your filter that you're looking at when you're thinking about who's right for you to coach, but what should a person be looking at when they're thinking about who's the right coach for them? Because, for example, there's people who need coaching through a career transition, or there's people who need coaching through how to set up systems and process and how to get to that next level, or how to have difficult conversations with the executive team or the board. Is there a certain like methodology of what you specifically are good for if somebody's listening and they need a coach and they're a founder?
Yeah, I mean, I think in general, like this is too, like we always want to work with people that have done it before and have been through it before. So I think experience is a big deal, especially in coaching. Look, you could argue the other way, and that just coaching is its own kind of magical thing, and that if you're really good at coaching, then you can support people. I think there's truth to that, but I also think that there's no substitute for the actual experience of having like been in the arena and have done the thing. And I did like
Hmm.
multiple products, you know different sets of co-founders, software, hardware,
Yeah.
recapitalization, settling
Also global
lawsuits,
experience too. I mean, all of it.
traveling the globe, dealing with investors from
Yeah.
Tokyo to Beijing
Yeah. And
to
you've fundraised, you've done
yeah.
all of it.
Yeah. So, I think for founders that are in it and working on something ambitious and are feeling the feels, experienced founders that also have a love and a passion for coaching are probably in the best suited to most meaningfully support you and your journey. The coaching is super high leverage, right? And so it's incredibly gratifying to be able to sit with a founder CEO for like an hour a week. Sometimes maybe it's
Yeah.
2 hours. Sometimes it's every other week for an hour and a half, whatever that is, and have a massive impact. It's like you
Yeah.
see over a long time horizon how the biggest issues are getting resolved and how their company's growing and how they're getting along better at home, and like it's so gratifying. And so I carve out time to do that. It fills
Because
me
you love
up.
it.
Yeah, I love it. And so I could, I do that with a handful of folks. I could probably do that with another one or two folks. Eventually, some of the folks I work with will phase out, and I'll have like a slot or two open.
Yeah. What types of patterns are you most often seeing or recognizing as like, oh, this is like a thing that's happening right now? Is it burnout? Is it fear around AI? Like, what are you seeing?
First of all, just there's so much value for anyone, especially it's compounded when you're doing something really ambitious. There's so much value in having a reference point. So I'm just going to give two examples. In Einsteinian relativity, the actual speed of something, right? That's what special relativity is all about. Its true speed or orientation is only understood in relation to a reference point. You need that outside perspective. Same thing, like a buddy of mine, for his a very close friend of mine, for his 50th birthday, ran like a little symposium and there was required reading material. So one was special relativity and another one was Heschel's The Sabbath, where he just sort of speaks to the beauty of having a day off. But what came out, this is what he was pushing for, is like they're both these reference points. They create sort of an objective outside perspective. You think about a cube, there's six sides to a cube, but it's the space inside the cube that allows the cube to have that definitive structure and not collapse into a sphere. So having a reference point creates like definition and it creates an accountability framework. So I know myself, if there's anything that's of any value or difficulty that I want to accomplish, I need accountability. So that could be signing up to run a race. It could be having a personal trainer. You know, I do both those things. It could be working with a coach. I still work with a coach. I love coaching. So I think that, you know, those are some of just the basics, you know, in terms of the inherent value. So the types of things that are coming up, it's amazing how lost or confused we get as people in isolation without that reference point. So just having a framework where I'm holding myself accountable to showing up consistently and talking through all of the things. And now it's so much power. Like I mean, obviously with the permission of the founders I'm working with, you know, I record my sessions in Notion. It's obviously all confidential, but then like there's a transcript and I can query against that on top of the notes that I'm taking. And so it's really, it's like almost like AI enabled or AI powered coaching in terms of like keeping track of the to-dos or um, looking for themes. I think we're living in a more unpredictable, fast changing environment than certainly any time I've been alive, and I think probably any time in the last couple few generations. Arguably since the Industrial Revolution, arguably more so than the Industrial
Yeah.
Revolution. You know, we're living in a time where, like, you know, self-driving cars, networked transportation, humanoid robots, you know, AI agents are all very real things that are already disrupting global commerce. You know, so it's
So
I
does it
think
make it so your founders are getting like distracted? And does the notion when you're taking notes and you're comparing them and you're looking, are you seeing themes of people being like squirrel? Like maybe I should go in that direction. And you're like, whoa,
it's definitely
bro,
yeah,
like stay focused.
it's definitely there's definitely it's easy to get distracted, and I think it's also if your eyes are wide open, it's impossible to ignore how fundamentally things are changing and the need to be aware and consider, do I adjust how we get this thing done? Do I need to like,
Yeah.
you know, put this tool in place? Do I
Yeah.
need to approach, you know, how we solve this problem or how we manage this discipline differently? Um, so I think that makes the importance and the value of having an attentive, listening, competent, well informed, experienced ear in your corner that much more pronounced.
Yeah. And are you coming at this? Because my sense of you, and we've had, our interactions is that you're obviously deeply spiritual and connected to just like the world and obviously your Judaism, but most of us are kind of hardwired to be focused on achievement and that if you're coaching, that there's got to be some measurement of like, am I improving, or where am I going, and is that successful? Or are you doing some sort of combination of like fulfillment
Yeah.
and peace and balance? Or is that like outside of anybody's pay grade to try to help a founder on that too? Because they've got to answer to their board and their venture fund and return profits.
Yeah, to me, it's like I'm at the end of the day, and at the beginning of the day, I'm working with a person, and my worldview is like any person, it's like it's a soul, which is something that we can't really quite put our finger on. It's something, beyond. It's a soul in a body. So you're dealing with, like a very powerful, in some ways, like supernatural being that has needs, spiritual needs, aspirations. And so, our output is only a function, and ultimately we can't control outputs. It's a function of the input and the consistency
Mm.
and how, what we can put in. And so, we're all people. We're not dealing with deterministic robots. And so, all sorts of stuff, personal stuff, nothing's really ever off limits. I think that's the job of a good coach and confidant, is to always accept whoever it is that you're sitting with, like with a loving embrace, and really listen. And we talk about in coaching, we talk about, different layers of agenda. There's a revealed agenda, and then there's a hidden agenda, and then there's this transcendent agenda, this transformational agenda, which is maybe unknown to both client and coach, especially at the outset of a relationship, but often emerges if you stick with it.
That's so cool. You're making me curious about it because I've never worked with a coach. So have you taken some of that coaching and then also been like, okay, how do I offer this to more people, given that I am so passionate about connecting people? You've got these, I don't even know, communities that you've gotten, that you've led, formative. I want to hear more about that. And then also post-exit founders community. Like, are you just trying to make sure that people can learn from one another? And where do you fall into that? Is that create revenue or just connection for you?
Yeah, I don't know. It's not so like neat and tidy.
Yeah.
So the first company I started, I probably I needed to take some time. I realized that, but I think most founders, that have had some sort of an exit and have been doing a company for a while, it's a big part of their identity, more often than not. And I advise against this. I made this mistake. They quickly rebound into their next company. It's so important to take some time, but I got into this thing called ODF, On Deck Founders, like right after I moved on from my last company. And I had this incredible, like, serendipitous moment where basically I was all passionate about trying to stand up more of these peer groups and make these more accessible to more types of people. And a good friend from college was thinking the same thing, and we reconnected, and we just got to work, spun up this company. Figured I was like, didn't want to raise venture. I was like, been there, done that. I wanted to do this on my own. Figured we'd like bootstrap this thing to heavy profits. We actually bootstrapped it and attracted some really cool clients, and we're standing up groups and facilitating groups for founders and stuff. Um, but it's really difficult to bootstrap a something to like really, really meaningful profits in a really short time frame, which was sort of
Yeah.
the success metric we set for ourselves. And then he got tapped to go. I couldn't make this up. It's crazy. He got tapped to go run ops and lead an AI infrastructure company that was seeded with $1 billion, I think, from one of the founders of Ripple. So like I couldn't compete with that. So
Yeah.
then
You're like, good luck.
yeah, no, so he's doing like, but so what I did is I channeled my passion and energy and fascination in peer groups really primarily into YPO. So I stepped up to be the forum officer of our YPO chapter. And then I did that for a year. And then just very recently, I stepped up to be the forum officer for the Entrepreneurship Network for all of YPO globally.
I didn't even know that was a thing because I'm an EO and YPO, but I love that because, YPO is not just founders. It's like people who are hired
Right.
guns or people who are third, fourth generation. It's really cool.
So it's basically a third of YPO are founders. And so this is like our
That's
tribe.
interesting.
Yeah, and so we set up forums. I'm happy to get you set up with one,
Yeah,
but like we
that's
set up
super cool.
forums with just for the founders and entrepreneurs within YPO. So right now it's more like operational, and I have like professional YPO staff to help me implement my ideas in terms of just like quickly scaling and getting a lot more forums up and running. I'm helping a little bit with post-exit founders, PEF, do something similar. And I get approached by people. I just had a conversation with somebody else last week that wants to stand up more groups. Right now, I'm just sort of doing it more casually, but I'm just
Yeah,
and also in these volunteer roles within these CEO communities. I do have this like itch to I'm a huge believer in coaching, but coaching doesn't really scale
it's hard to
in the same
scale.
way. And I have this vision. I feel like the world, would be such a better, healthier place if everyone had, their confidential space with their peers, you
Oh,
know,
totally.
where they're on like a shared journey, they have a shared ambition. So I have this whole thrust and energy and vision around that, but I'm like channeling that right now in these other roles and not pursuing it head on.
Yeah. But you've also got your abundant spare time because aren't you also building a whole energy company? Like what's
Yeah.
happening
So
with that?
Yeah, so I'm coaching. I work with this family office, and I'm helping them look for opportunities. Yeah, if anyone has like a company in like the nutraceutical space or just
What's
in sort of
nutraceutical
general
mean? Oh,
like
nutrition and
stuff, yeah,
pharmaceuticals combined?
yeah, like just anything you put in your body that's like really healthy for you and helps you
Oh,
perform better. Yeah, we're looking for a company that's young and is profitable, where maybe the founder wants some liquidity, he's been at it for a while, and then we can partner and take things to the next level. We've got a vision and sort of a brand strategy that we would layer on top of that.
how big does the company have to be that you would look at?
Yeah, I mean, probably the ticket size is like for the acquisition to be like 10 to 20 million. So I imagine it's doing like, you know, probably single digit millions and recurring cash flow, you know.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. That's like more part-time, but it's a lot of fun to kind of have this open-ended mandate with like a really interesting, successful company builder, founder. But yeah, but it's funny. I was never expecting this, but basically, my graduate school research, I basically started a lab. After we got this nanotech company acquired, I basically kickstarted this energy lab at WashU. And that research and that lab that I built like became the largest lab at the university. And my now very good friend and academic advisor raised tens of millions of dollars. They won tens of millions of dollars of grants, primarily from the Department of Energy, around a way of generating power through a pressurized combustion process. You think about all the engines that make our world go round, like whether it's on a plane or it's in a car or like a generator, they all
Yeah.
operate under pressure. So there's like really like that's the way good engines are built. They run under pressure. Power plants were never built to operate under pressure. Turns out if you look at a power plant as an engine, which is essentially what it is, and you operate that under pressure, there's like dramatic benefits in how efficient it is, how you can bifurcate the stuff that's coming out of that, i.e., capture pollutants, capture the CO2. And so basically, my graduate research has slowly evolved into being now this multi-patented technology that's already proven at a pretty decent scale. And it's basically like the power plant of the future. It's like a pressurized power plant. Then instead of building the power plant like on site, you can build a power plant in a factory and then like put it on a truck and ship it to where it's actually going to be utilized. And then you can capture the CO2. And so you can actually run a carbon negative combustion process by using a biofuel, and then you can also layer in some fossil fuels, but the whole thing still ends up being carbon negative, and it's super cost effective. And there's tax credits, and then there's the like, burgeoning carbon credit market. So it's like this really
Wow.
wild, hard tech, capital intensive, ambitious play. But I don't know if you're aware that in the last 25 years, our country has brought on like very little new energy onto the grid. Like the power demand in this country is basically hovered around 4 terawatt
Well, and it's
hours.
going to be crazy with AI too, right?
So that's what's happening now, is that the energy demand in the next 25 years, we pretty much need to double our energy infrastructure. And it's not at all clear how we're going to do that, especially now that we're all like, we're all aware of rising CO2 levels. And like, we need to actually, not only we need to keep our CO2 levels like where they are, we actually need to like we need to bend the
Reduce them.
curve and
Yeah.
actually reduce CO2 emissions. And so it seems like we have something really unique and special. And we got this group that I was a part of. I did not do the PhD. Those guys are, but it's like all these brilliant PhD combustion gurus.
So are you taking an active role in it?
Yes. I'm not, like it's we're in stealth. I don't have anything to like announce yet, but I started consulting with the university about a year ago, and now I'm putting in more and more time, and we're actually putting together the financial plan
It's
and the deck,
exciting.
and I just designed a logo, and we're honing in on the right brand, and yeah, I
I
mean,
love it.
it feels like destiny. It feels pretty clear like what I'm just supposed to do next. So I'm trying to balance all of this. And I think because it's like energy infrastructure and things like move slow, it's like once you've got the requisite amount of capital and you're building the team, like I think it'll actually probably serve the company well for me to just stay super active in some of these things that give me energy and keep me like
Totally.
super well networked with all sorts of, and I work with a lot of like really technically astute, brilliant, sometimes PhD founder types. So I don't know. It sort of all works together.
I don't know how you're balancing it all because you've got all these different, you've got your hands in a lot of pots and you clearly have efficiency hacks that, well, we talked about a few of them. But
I don't. I really.
how are you finding time also, your husband, father of four, soon to be five. It's Shabbat, isn't it? So I will tell you, I just started taking a Kabbalah class and I really like it. And then they have us working on this workbook and asking questions around, and all of my answers were like Shabbat. And I've never done Shabbat. Like I've done Friday night light, we light the candles, blah, 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 but I've never done like a full digital break from sundown to sundown.
Just come for Shabbos. By the way, I like people do this. Like I had one of my former mates, really successful guy in our YPO chapter. Like he came for Shabbos. He'd never done a Shabbos. He came with his wife and his kid. They had a great time. So like
Well,
just
you mean like
come.
Shabbat dinner? I've done that a million
No,
times.
like
Oh,
fly
and
in
then just like
to
stay for the weekend in
and just
pajamas.
stay. Just come and stay with us. Yeah.
Okay, I'm all in. But I just think like the answer for a lot of it because I feel this like need to kind of go 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 all the time, and it's almost like I need a forcing function. I have to have someone force me to do it.
We have to slow down. That's the point. It's a reference point. That's the thing. It's so funny. It's like the irony, but it's like I feel like as time has gone on and as we've become more and more like connected to like stuff and dependent upon things and technology, and now like everything's digital and like right, we're on our phone, we're like, let's call a spade, myself included, like we're all addicted to our phones. We all have an unhealthy
100%.
relationship
Now
with
I'm like
technology.
twitching without it.
So
Totally.
it's so like I've been doing this now for most of my life where it's like, I shut down. It doesn't matter what's happening in the world, like, and there's a few times in the year where it's like I literally have a 3 day. It's like there'll be a 2 day Yom Tov, like a 2 day holiday that'll butt up against Shabbos, and I'm offline for like
So what do you
72 plus
do? I mean, everybody
hours.
knows that about you because they know that you're observant, but what are you doing? If I was like a fly on the wall at your house on Shabbat, is it like games with the kids? Are you sleeping? Are you reading? What are you
Yeah,
doing?
all of that. I mean, I'm sleep. Yeah, it's like I first, I'm gonna eat an incredible meal. Like I'm very fortunate to be married to like an incredible, angelic, selfless, unbelievable woman, who takes very good care of me and puts up with me. And so like I'm gonna go home and like I'm gonna eat like a king tonight, and then probably play some games with the kids, get a really good night's sleep, go get this, do like go to like a big, nice communal meditation session essentially in the morning, and then eat more incredible food, hang out with homies, learn, like nourish my soul, um, maybe sleep some more, play some more games with the kids, have some DMCs with the family and with close friends. It's just like, it's a party. Like it's the, like offline, think about like the experience you have when you go to a national park. It's like you get to the national park, you spend like a day or two like in, in Yellowstone or like, and you're like, why am I why has it been so long since I've been to a national park? Like, what am I doing? Like, I need to spend more time like
Yeah,
in the
every time we slow
grander.
down and we ground in nature, we ground in connection or digital detox of any sort, we're always like, oh, this
So the
is fuel.
spiritual version of going to that national park is available to us at all times if we just allow ourselves to go inward and block out all the noise and every little thing that's screaming for your attention, and just get back in touch with the presence, the inherent reality that we're all part of something so much bigger than ourselves that none of us really understand. There's a magical inherent mystery and mystique if we just allow ourselves to listen and tune in. And when we do, it fuels us.
Yeah.
It's like it's tapping into our source.
This is literally my final question. What fuels you? But yours could go in a million directions, but I'm guessing it's a combo meal of what you're talking about, the spiritual part, the connection part.
What fuels me is connecting to, and it's not just mine, 'cause it's for all of us to share, is connecting to our source, connecting to that underlying, all-encompassing, unifying, unspoken, mysterious, hidden life force that's endlessly creative and endlessly growing and is supporting us to be alive, to be conscious. We're swimming in the sea of life. It's an endless flow. It's a gift, you know? We're swimming in oxygen. Without oxygen, we can't breathe. We have to, especially now in such a, as things accelerate towards more automation and more technology and AI, we have to flex this muscle and invest the time and energy and spirit and resources into becoming more resourced and tapping into our source.
Thank you for listening to the What Fuels You podcast. If you'd like to check out past episodes to hear from more business leaders, go to fueltalent.com/podcast. And if you have a minute, please leave a review and rating on your favorite podcast app, or share this episode with a friend or colleague. Please share any feedback or interview suggestions for other guests by sending a message to podcast@fueltalent.com. I'm Shauna Swerland, and thanks again for listening.